G'day folks, my name's Mitch and I am from Calgary, Alberta, but I now live in basically the middle of nowhere in central Alberta, a little place called Yoford. I became interested in permaculture quite a long time ago when I was in university, and in my undergrad I studied earth systems, and there was a lot of siloed thinking and not much talking between the components of what I was learning about, which was also a lot of the problems that we're facing in the world. And there wasn't much talk about solutions. And to me, even at that young age, permaculture offered solutions and holistic thinking. I then went to go pursue my master's degree in meteorology, applied meteorology, where I developed a statistical model that can predict frosts in complex terrain. And being atmospherically minded, I suppose you could say, I am quite concerned about climate change and the problems that will bring. And again, permaculture brings the solution. And what I wanted to do actually after I finished my master's was get another degree in civil engineering, but before I wanted to do that or go into that, I wanted to get my PDC. And I had been talking to a friend and she said, oh, you should listen to this podcast where this guy, Rob, he's an engineer and he's now doing permaculture. So I listened to this podcast as I was walking to work in the waterfront in Wellington, New Zealand, and all of the smoke from Australia, the Australia wildfires, was billowing over. And I was listening to this podcast of you, and I was just enamored with the approach and the insights and the solutions being brought forward by Rob. And that prompted me to actually reach out to him. I booked a consultancy with him, and we had a great chat. Gave me a bunch of books to read, and I went out and read them. And then COVID hit, and I got on the last flight from New Zealand to Canada. I was twiddling my thumbs in my parents' basement, just wishing for something to happen. I was about to start my own business, but it wasn't a regenerative one, and wasn't one that I was comfortable really with the ethics, because it was going to be like a shitty drop shipping company, which basically everyone tried to start in COVID. And there I was just sitting there in my parents' basement, and I emailed Rob. Actually, before I get much further, one of the things Rob told me when we had that initial conversation was the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I was quite squeaky. I was kind of annoying. And I asked Rob, I just emailed him and said, hey, do you know of any volunteer opportunities? And he said, just come up to my farm for 3 weeks and we'll see how it goes. Shortly before I was about to head up to his farm, he said, this is basically going to be a job interview and we'll see if we like rowing in the same boat together. So I went up to Rob's farm and I busted my balls for 3 weeks. Pounded dirt so hard with my wrist that I actually sprained it. And I was just up, sun up to sundown, digging trenches. Anything Rob and Michelle asked me to do, I would just do with full gusto. And I left with the job. And I've never been so fulfilled in what I'm doing with my life. And it's giving me a real sense of purpose. And I've developed a lot in the process. And last May, it would have been May 2021, I was up at Rob Michelle's. I was going to go up for a week in May just to work on the farm and get outside. And jokingly, Michelle said, oh, you should just go look at this property down the road. And just as a joke, just to see. And I saw the place and it's like, oh, geez, this is ideal. And just went for it and put an offer in that week. And now we're here. We're out in the middle of nowhere, Yoford, Alberta, and getting her done and doing permaculture. And I'm having so much fun. It's so good. The permaculture design course has transformed my life in more ways than I ever could have actually imagined it to have, because I mean, you go into the PDC, which is short for permaculture design course, thinking that you can't do anything. And I feel like this is a pretty common thread amongst people who go into the PDC, is there's not much that I can do. And even if there were things I can do, I don't know how to do it. And for me, that's what really changed is, well, one, Rome wasn't built in a day. And while it may not have been everyone in the world who caused these problems, it's going to take everyone in the world to actually fix them. And that starts with taking control of your own supply chains and doing what you can with what you have already. And it doesn't matter if that's rainwater harvesting or putting just a couple potatoes in the ground. Every little bit counts. And the PDC really took that overwhelming view of seeing all the problems in the world and condensing it into, okay, well, that a lot of those things are actually out of my control. That's the sphere of concern, and I need to be concerned about what I can actually do around me. And so it gives you a framework under which you can actually operate under to act and do things, and not just willy-nilly, just I'm going to try this, I'm going to try. And there is a lot of that. There's a lot of experimenting that comes out of that. I mean, this is my first garden, real garden. I've done a little bit in the past, but it wasn't to this scale. And it really, to me, the PDC, it sounds weird, but it grants you the permission to trust your intuition. And your intuition, in some ways, is guided by the instructors in the PDC, which I'm now a part of. I teach the mapping section and the climate sections. But it gives you permission to trust yourself and allows you to understand that failing is okay. Your first garden isn't going to be great, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't just start out in the first place. Your first rainwater harvesting system isn't going to be state-of-the-art and is not going to have all these cool things, but it's a start on which you can then build up on. So as Rob always says, it's a terrible place to finish, but the best place to start. And I luckily have found myself in a position where I have a property now where I can start actually putting these principles into action and creating abundance for myself, my partner Maddie, Jimbo as well, and my family and the community at large. And the sense of despair, of solastalgia, if you will, has dissipated greatly because I know that my actions matter and that what I do matters, but I also know that I can't change the world in a single day. And it's just, you need to take a step back and appreciate that it's just a brick by brick. And then if everyone's putting one brick down a day, that's going to build a road to a better future. It's been almost exactly what I just talked about. It's like, oh, I can do that. You can do that? Yeah, you can do that. And it's a lot about just getting people over to the hump of just not being afraid to fail and reframing failure as an opportunity to learn and do better. And I think that's the most insightful thing that people take from the PDC, and a very common thread that people see is they understand the problems, and the courses that we offer solutions to those problems. And it's just one step in the right direction is that, and then just trying and understanding that it's not going to happen all in one day is the most important bit. My favorite part about teaching is I love teaching the climate section. This year will be my first time teaching the mapping section, but I do have a course on that as well, just a smaller one. I think for me, I love teaching about weather and climate because it is a very misunderstood component of the world. And that's almost why I got into meteorology in the first place. Is I remember watching weather forecasts in the morning before school, hanging out with my parents, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. And for some reason, I really, really, really wanted to understand what was going on there. And so to be able to, having gone through all the education that I've done and whatnot, to be able to transfer that knowledge to other people and have them say, oh wow, I had no idea about that, I had no idea about this, and to give people the tools in order for them to assess their own risk, whether that's frost or fire or thunderstorms or anything like that, to provide people the tools and the knowledge to comfortably do that themselves, which, now that I'm thinking about it, is what the PDC is. We get all these experts and they take their own point of view and distill that into really easy to digest information to give people the tools, the techniques and insights to comfortably be able to do that themselves. And I guess to really answer the question, my favorite part is empowering people to be knowledgeable. It's to get people empowered to be comfortable to action the things that they need to action or want to action. I mean, people don't need to action every little bit from the PDC or any of the other courses, but to give them the option to be able to is really rewarding. There's no such thing as a silver bullet, and that is discussed a lot in permaculture. And the PDC isn't necessarily a silver bullet in and of itself, but with the problems that we're facing today, whether it be supply chains, climate change, biodiversity loss, a sense of wellness amongst people in communities, permaculture offers solutions to all of those. So while it's not a silver bullet, it certainly ticks a lot of boxes. So to me, it's a bit of a no-brainer, and I am biased, but when I take a look at myself pre-PDC or pre-permaculture to right now, my quality of life has skyrocketed. My sense of purpose has gone up. I'm more engaged with my community. I feel more empowered to make change, to talk to people about the problems in the world and offer them solutions as well. And I think Verge is really unique in the sense that we have an approach that is very solutions oriented and scientific. Like we're engineers, we're scientists, and that's what we bring to the table. And it's not airy-fairy and a lot of flim-flam. It's boots on the ground solutions, and this is what you can do now to make an impact in the world. And you'll find that once you start with providing yourself with solutions, then you can then extend that to affect your broader community and the area at large around you, whether that be urban, suburban, or out in the boonies.